The sun had not yet risen when Eamon arrived at the monastery's gates. A thin mist clung to the stones like whispered secrets, curling around the moss and the worn steps. The air was heavy with dew, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant pine. Eamon's hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the questions that had followed him across years and villages. He had searched for answers everywhere, in the chatter of townsfolk, in the scrolls of dusty libraries, in the prayers of strangers, but still, nothing filled the hollow ache inside. And now, standing before the silent monastery, he wondered quietly, almost fearfully, if the answers could ever come. But no one in the village knew why he had left his life behind, or what he hoped to find in the quiet halls, where words seemed almost forbidden. Inside, the corridors smelled of incense and aged wood. Candles flickered in shallow alcoves, throwing gentle shadows across the stone. Eamon met the gaze of a monk, thin and pale, with eyes that seemed to hold the calm of 1,000 nights. His name was Tenzin. He spoke little, but the few words he did share were like seeds dropped into fertile soil, waiting for something unseen to bloom. Eamon's heart ached for guidance, for someone who might teach him to quiet the storm inside. He had always been restless, rushing through life, desperate for recognition, love, and validation, yet he felt an emptiness he could not name. Friends had tried to comfort him with advice, promises, and explanations, but their words washed over him like leaves floating down a river, beautiful but fleeting. And Tenzin, with his quiet gaze, seemed to know that Eamon's hunger was not for more words, but for understanding. The days passed slowly. Eamon swept the floors, carried water from the spring, tended the small herb garden, and practiced sitting still as Tenzin moved silently beside him. One afternoon, as the wind rattled the bamboo outside, Eamon finally spoke. "Master, I don't understand. I've tried so many things, and nothing changes." Tenzin nodded, his face serene. "Then perhaps you are listening too loudly," he said softly. "Have you ever tried to hear the silence?" Eamon frowned. Silence. Silence does not demand. It does not promise. It simply exists. And if you allow it, it teaches. At first, Eamon thought it absurd. How could nothing, simply nothing, hold the answers he sought? Yet, as he followed Tenzin's instructions, he began to notice the small things, the sound of his own breath as it rose and fell, the subtle shiver of the leaves, the way sunlight drifted across the floor in warm streaks. And then, one evening, something shifted. He was sitting beneath a willow by the stream, the water clear and reflective as glass. Tenzin sat beside him without a word, letting the silence stretch between them like a living thing. Eamon's mind, for the first time, was not trying to fix, to grasp, or to demand. It was merely listening. And in that listening, he heard not just the quiet around him, but the quiet within. "I don't know what I was expecting," Eamon whispered. "You were expecting words," Tenzin said. "But words are only shadows of truth. Silence. Silence is the light." It was not an instant transformation. There were tears, frustration, laughter at his own impatience. But slowly, the tight coil of anxiety in his chest loosened. He began to understand that his restlessness had been a way to escape himself, to avoid sitting with his own heart. The world outside would always speak, always clamor, always demand. But there was a place, hidden in the stillness, where nothing could touch him except the quiet, honest reflection of his own soul. The days turned into weeks. Eamon moved differently now, softly, deliberately. He smiled at the wind, bowed to the stones, and spoke less, but when he did, it was with meaning, not emptiness. And when the villagers asked him what he had learned, he only smiled gently and sometimes said nothing at all. For he had learned that some truths cannot be captured in sentences or explained in books. They are felt, breathed, remembered by the heart. When Eamon finally left the monastery, he carried with him no answers written on parchment, no magic, no grand revelations. Yet everything had changed. Life felt deeper, fuller, like the river beneath the willow, flowing and still at once. He understood that the silence he had once feared was a teacher, a mirror, a friend. And he realized that his hunger, the ache that had driven him across the lands, was not meant to be filled by words, but by presence, by simply being deeply, honestly, and quietly alive. And perhaps that is how the world speaks to those who truly listen, not in shouts or promises, but in the quiet spaces where the soul finally recognizes itself. Because sometimes the most profound lessons are not told, they are lived.